This deportation dogfight is likely to be appealed to the Supreme Court. And Attorney General Pam Bondi says the administration is prepared and positive.
We are going to fight back and we are going to win. And the Supreme Court will be ready to hear these cases. You know, again, these are federal district judges who are trying to control our nation's agenda.
Let's bring in former acting DHS Secretary and America First Policy Institute Executive Director Chad Wolf. Chad, great to see you. So many Americans are watching this and find it incredibly difficult to believe that it's this hard to remove an illegal alien, someone who should not be in this country, who is a danger to this country, who is a designated terrorist. And throwing up roadblocks are judges.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where were these judges when millions of individuals came into the country illegally under President Obama? Of course, they were silent then. And look, the president and his team are doing something very fundamental that every country needs to do, which is to remove individuals that have no legal right to be here. But even in this case, these are terrorists. They should be removed from the country. They should be sent back to their home countries or a safe third country, in this case, El Salvador. And the American people should be thanking President Trump getting these very dangerous folks out of here. But look, we knew this was going to be the case from the left and from specific judges. They were going to try to enjoin. They were going to try to stop and disrupt everything that President Trump does. We saw that during Trump 1.0. We're seeing it now. I think the difference now is that you have a very different Supreme Court that this is likely going to go to.
Well, and the president's putting pressure on multiple fronts. So you've got the judge front of this. You've also got this new secondary tariff that he's doing in Venezuela. Basically, if you buy Venezuelan oil, you're going to get slapped with a huge tariff. I haven't seen that approach before. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's a unique approach. Obviously, we don't do a lot of trading with Venezuela. So I think what the president is saying is not only is he disappointed with Venezuelans' approach to taking back migrants, but mostly stopping for more and more of TDA coming to the United States. Obviously, he's upset about electoral reforms. And so this tariff actually accomplishes two things. It probably impacts Venezuela, but it also impacts China, who buys the majority of Venezuelan oil. So I think it's accomplishing two different objectives from President Trump.
It's putting Venezuela in a vice grip. Right. Like if the pressure from us doesn't work, let's get China on the other side indirectly. Right. Chad, moving on to this, Tom Homan, ICE, has targeted Boston as ground zero in cracking down on illegal migrant crime. He announced a massive ICE operation in Boston, netting 370 arrests. This involving ICE, FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals, and other organizations. But one of the reasons, it's not just, say, Mayor Wu, who's had a lot to say, but and CBS has finally reported on this. Bill Malugin has been reporting about this for a while. But Boston, and in particular Massachusetts, they consistently release child rapists who are illegal aliens from jail when there are ICE detainers on bail. Guatemalan, 3 counts of aggravated child rape, released on $7,500 bail. Another Guatemalan, aggravated child rape, victim age 9 or younger, $7,500 bail. Over and over again, this state is putting child rapists who have ICE detainers, they ignore the ICE detainer and put these rapists back out on the street.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And, look, the people of Massachusetts need to wake up and demand better of their city, state, and local officials. Look, this is simply about protecting residents there in Boston, which is to say you want these violent individuals, these public safety threats out of your community. Let ICE come in and remove these individuals. A vast majority of them have committed additional crimes here in the United States, and why you would want them back out into your community, why the mayor would want them back out in the community is anyone's guess. But that's what we have in places like Boston, New York, and Chicago. This is what happens when you have a sanctuary city policy, is you simply release these predators back into your community, and it protects no one there.
You know, you mentioned just the violent level of these criminals. 205 of those 370 had significant criminal convictions or charges. They got, as part of that ICE raid, 44 kilos of methamphetamines, 5 kilos of fentanyl, 1.2 kilos of cocaine. I mean, it's criminals, it's substances that can kill Americans. And what I don't get is you've got the governor and the mayor kind of trying to tap dance around this. Like, we're not a sanctuary state, but obviously you are based on what you do. I would think the citizens of Massachusetts, and I know it's a very liberal state, would eventually say the people running this place have no idea, and Tom Homan does. Maybe we ought to change our thinking a little bit.
Well, I think that's right. Whether you live in a blue or red state, I think you want to be safe. You want to be secure. You want the ability to walk down your street, take your children to playgrounds. And when you have these types of individuals back out into your community reoffending, that's a problem. And so a lot of these mayors hide behind, well, we're okay if we, if you deport violent criminals. But the data that you just cited says that is not occurring because they will not let ICE into their communities to pick these individuals up. And so, I think the residents of Massachusetts there in Boston specifically need to take a hard look at their elected officials and the policies that they're putting in place.
Okay, Chad Wolf, thank you for that very much. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Chad Wolf.